Omri Casspi, and I panic about Elon Musk buying Twitter.
Sup?
Not much. How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You look good.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling fantastic, like $1,000,000, my man.
All right. Well, you know me, athlete.
Yes.
You know, by the way,
That's how I think of you.
it's so funny. I'll be golfing with somebody, and I'm not horrible, but there's moments of actually, like, even I'm surprised. You knew me when I was a kid player, but there's moments in my late 50s where I hit a shot and I go, huh. Like, the people that are playing with me know that I'm surprised. That's how rare an event it is to hit one on the nuts. And you and I golfed every day through our MBA program,
Yes.
which explains a lot of why we're now locked in a podcast studio where I can hear my ear hair grow. But you've hit your share of good shots. You do not play anymore, right? Because of your eyes?
I am a horrible, horrible player. And
No, you were good. You had moments. You're tall.
I had moments.
It'd be like you cycling up the Alps. You were not meant to do two things, golf and cycling.
No, probably not.
But you're going to be excited because we have a guest who's taller than you. But anyways, I'll hit a shot. And friends of mine, it's so insulting because they could just say, nice shot. Instead, they go, you're surprisingly athletic. Which is just so funny.
This is the point where
because,
I'm not
in our
supposed to agree
20s
with
when
them,
we
right?
played at ASU, we took this shit seriously. Like, we thought we were athletic, and we took golf seriously, and we would get upset and drown ourselves at the seeps or wherever with drinks. Or where'd we go?
Oh, we'd go to McDuffie's.
McDuffie's, where I live literally one
Crawling.
long barf
Crawling
away.
distance away.
Where my worst, the only thing that mattered to me then, did my roommate spill the bong water on our carpet. But those were the days. Now I have different worries, like what is the semiconductor index doing? No, I'm kidding. So anyways, I'm surprisingly athletic. Is that something that you would agree with?
I'm not supposed to, but yes.
Yes. No, that was not a trick question. But while I'm surprisingly athletic, I'm not surprisingly considered a pretty good investor, which is like always a mystery to me because, I don't consider myself a good investor. I mean, we are in a bull market. But anyways, today's guest is surprisingly an investor,
Yeah.
but not surprisingly an athlete because he is tall. He is, I don't know how tall he is, but maybe 6'9", 6'10". But more importantly, he was the first Israeli to play in the NBA.
Very impressive.
Very impressive. And he's still thin, and he's living over in Israel, Tel Aviv. And he, with his friend David Citron, have started a fund.
Huh. Cool.
And a lot of NBA players now are into this. He was part of this crossover group of players and at the right place at the right time. When he was at the Warriors, people started investing in startups, from Chamath on down. All these people were in the locker room. So I want to hear some of these stories. I am an LP in Omri's new fund. I think he hit me up on Twitter. I forget. And I'm supposed to be hitting athletes up. Instead, athletes are now hitting me up, which is pretty cool. Surprising on that same trend. But anyways, I was over in Tel Aviv recently. We hung out for the first time, but we've been chatting online. He has a podcast. It's like being with a celebrity when you're in Israel, because when you are the first NBA player and a long career in the NBA. What do I know about him? He mainly played at small forward position, which is what I played at in high school, small forward. And I played that from the bench, small forward. And but he was drafted 23rd overall in the 2009 NBA draft. That's pretty cool, by the Sacramento Kings. Like I said, making him the first Israeli to be selected in the first round of the NBA draft. He is the managing director of the Omri Casspi Foundation, started in 2015. You know how I feel about Israel. It's one of the most amazing countries in the world.
Yes, I do.
He has started his podcast a couple of years ago. He's all over the internet. He's a social guy, and he's a great speaker. And I just want to learn a little bit about how his mindset will help him as an investor and what it's like living in Israel and doing this in the network. So let's get Omri on the phone.
We apologize for scratchy audio coming in from Israel today, but here we go.
Omri!
That was a really nice kind of coming on party from you guys. Thank you so much for the introduction. It was great.
So how tall are you? I said when you were that this might be the tallest baby ever born on Twitter. Is your baby tall? Is your recent baby tall?
Nothing special. I remember playing for the Kings in 2016. I think Rudy Gay had his first kid in Sacramento. He was a beautiful kid. Now, when he was born, he was almost, I think, 12 and a half pounds.
I was 10.
So he came out really big. He broke the record in Sacramento.
Yeah, I've only put on 170 pounds since birth.
So he came out
so I'm
really
doing
big.
well. Like when people say I look a little heavier, I'm only up 170 since birth. What do you weigh now? You're lean. You won't. I tried to get you to eat bread. You wouldn't.
Not touching bread. Bread is the devil. And
even though you live amongst some of the greatest bread with pita, how do you? So how thin are you right now? What's your weight? What's your investing weight?
I think investing weight is, I'd say probably 225 and probably 13-14% body fat. But I haven't really worked out for quite some time now. It's been a while.
And so how did you meet? What was the first time that you thought about investing? I mean, your MBA, your career, you're in Israel, you get discovered. How does basketball start for you?
No, so I think the whole process actually started in the U.S., right? So I played for the Kings and our draft class was really quality, just quality good people. Steph was the 7th pick.
Wow.
James Harden was the 3rd. Blake Griffin was 1st. We had DeMar DeRozan, Drew Holiday, so a lot of quality good guys. And I saw this trend of, when I got into the league in 2009, the locker room talk was totally different, right? And suddenly you get to the Warriors in 2017, 18, and this is literally everything that the guys are talking about.
So all the team, like it wasn't just you.
Yeah, it's literally that was the talk of the conversation. The locker room. It was Draymond.
Like would Chamath come in the room and pitch specs or no?
Well, I don't think when I was there, Shaman was even there yet at the time. I think.
Oh, okay.
Like Draymond would come into the team and say, "Hey guys, there's this opportunity," and Steph and Andre and KD, and it was beautiful to see. And I remember the league. When I got drafted, we used to go through this rookie transition program that literally was just the beginning of, hey, just keep your money. Don't let anyone invest your thing, and it was just a great process to see the guys going. So. Ever since I moved back to Israel, I said, I have this opportunity. I've seen my colleagues in the U.S. I started investing in the U.S. I did pre-IPO with some cool companies. I invested with, DocuSign pre-IPO. I did a lot of quality companies at the time. And ever since moving back to Israel, it's the same kind of community that I met in San Francisco. And now going back, and it's a fresh start. I want to do this here. This model of having an athlete and a tech investor is a model that's been quite successful from an allocation standpoint and competing for deals and people understanding value. And this is exactly our ticket. Like we want to be heads down, working, helping our founders, leverage a lot of relationships we built over the years and really get allocation into the best deals. And I think this is the winning mentality long term.
I'm going to hop around. That's great. Did you think you were going to be drafted in the first round?
No. It's funny when you guys talked about the introduction, there's a funny story when David Citron, may rest in peace, said there was a kid in Boston. It was some sort of an event, NBA event, and a kid came to David Citron. He was a commissioner to the NBA for, I think, 25 years or so?
Yeah. I just saw him in the LA Lakers show on HBO as a kid. Like, when you got to watch it. It's so good. Mm-hmm. It's about the Magic being drafted in the beginning of the Lakers with Jerry Buss, and David Stern was just starting as, I don't even know if he was commissioner yet, but keep going. So Stern
sees this kid, and this kid comes up to him saying, "Hey, David, I promise you I'll be an NBA player." And David goes back to him. He was a Jewish kid at some sort of a Jewish kind of event in Boston. And David goes back to him, "Hey, kid, you have a much higher percentage and success opportunity being an NBA owner than an NBA player," which is funny, because, yeah, I'm tall, and it's like, when I saw him coming out to the draft, I was in Israel. It was 3:30 a.m. My whole family's with me. I was projected to be the 22nd pick going to Portland. And Portland drafted a small forward right into me. And I was starting to think, just between me and myself, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a bad night. The media is there, the whole country's watching, my parents, everything, etc. And then David goes on stage with a small smirk on his face, and I knew something is up. And
Wow.
on the 23rd pick, the Sacramento Kings are like Omri Casspi, and then literally my whole life changed from one end to another.
And what was the first thing you bought that you despised yourself for buying?
You know what? I never really had that shtick. I remember flying to the U.S. My mom literally the next day, getting to Sacramento, getting settled in, signing the contract, getting through NBA, the whole kind of draft process, and then NBA Summer League, etc. And then going back to Israel, I had to still finish my Army duty. I served in the Army at the time. I was still a soldier,
Right.
officially a soldier. So I had to go back to Israel, kind of finish my Army duty, sign off and everything, and then move back to the U.S.
Wow. So they had to wait for you.
Yeah, but never really had the kind of shtick, and
Well,
buying
because
something.
where do you buy pants? Like, where does a guy like you even buy pants? Like, so where do you buy pants? Where does a tall person buy pants?
When you play for the league, you have all this kind of suit, ambassador that come into your hotel and, they measure you and,
Oh.
they want to make a lot of suits for you and all that sort of stuff. So I think my first 2-3 years, I kind of spent a lot of money on suits and stuff, which I kind of regret.
Right. Clothes is the big regret.
Yeah, like I don't know. One year I spent like $30,000-$40,000 just on suits and stuff, and I was like, you know what, I still have them, some of them, and I was like, yeah, that wasn't smart.
Today, like, how do you buy clothes? Just do they have large and tall online? Like, if you go to Lulu, does it have an NBA section?
I don't know. I still have like my own kind of.
Is there a code that you surf the web with?
I still have kind of my own thing in the U.S. I have my store that I like to buy my stuff at, and now when I'm kind of like. When I played, my body, just transformed from playing to where it's at now. Like my legs shrinked a little bit. I felt like my muscle kind of going back to a kind of normal human being. And I feel like now just getting an extra large or an extra large just fits perfectly. And I find it pretty easy now.
And your wife is from Israel?
Yeah, my wife is from here. She was born in LA and then moved back to Israel. And then when she was, 3-4-year-old, and then she lived with me for 5.5 years in the U.S. It was wonderful. It was an amazing experience. And now mostly here in Tel Aviv, yeah.
And do you remember the first time you had a good falafel in Sacramento? Is there?
Not like
I mean, these are the things I know you wanted
Malta.
some hard-hitting questions, but this is interesting to me.
Nothing like the one. There is a couple of good spots in LA that I like, in New York that I like.
But nothing in Sacramento.
Nothing in Sacramento, and nothing like the one we've been together.
Oh,
How was it?
I know. What a great place, Malka. What do you miss about the States, if anything?
When we're when we're here, there's just a lot going on for us, being with the family and kids and a lot of
True.
friends coming in and out. When we used to go back to the US every summer, right after the summer, kind of getting geared up for the season, it was just us mostly, and we find that fun. At the same time, like being around family is something that we cherish, and this is the main reason why we're here. We love it, but sometimes it's just fun to get away. So we'll be in the US in the summer for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. Just to get away a little bit, get to Orlando, get to Miami, get some Disney into the kids and stuff like that. Even though whatever's going on with Disney, that was a little bit crazy, but at the same time, just to get away a little bit.
And so 2017, the world kind of shifts. It was impossible being in the Valley and playing for the Warriors not to do this.
Right.
Did you find yourself watching that great team? I mean, you won an NBA.
I won one with them, 17-18, yes.
17-18. So can you describe what it feels like what that's like?
Yeah, there's nothing really, as a kid growing up, at the time I used to watch Michael Jordan games in 1996 when I was an 80-year-old, that dream of winning an NBA championship and being around, the locker room, you walk into the Warriors locker room, a team that won 2 championships already.
Oh, they had won 2 already.
Steph.
Got it. Okay.
They won 2 right before I got there. And then,
Yep.
KD, Steph, Clay, Draymond, Andre, Sean Livingston, David West, like really deep quality team, quality guys. Steve Kerr was amazing. And just being like around these guys day in and day out, understanding that really what it takes to win. And kind of it's similar, to me when you assess team and you want to sign with a team in free agency, it's like it's really who the superstar is, what the culture of the organization is. So it's really similar to investing. Like when you see 2 guys with an idea, or 2 guys, 2 girls, or whatever, but like especially like the seed level, pre-seed level, like what's the dynamic between them? How hard they really want it? They want to be like really successful? Are they going to work at 2 a.m. And they're going to be there for one another? And so there's a lot of similarities to investing. And then, once you get that over kind of the hump with that, it's like you can really achieve anything. I think Israel is a great market to invest in. There's so much talent. The whole kind of community is booming, and it's awesome to be around.
Yeah, it's hard to explain it to people because you can, luckily I have a few friends there, but when I land, it's a world within a world in it, but yet it's so tiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's literally a mile square footage. Tel Aviv is Sarona market and all the way to a little bit of Herzliya maybe and Rothschild, but that's really it. There's over 100 unicorns now within that block. Per capita, we're number one in the world. Now there's real capital investing in Israel. I think Israelis, there's second and third time entrepreneurs coming back, doing their next thing. There's experience in consumer, with the lemonade. A lot of consumer companies, some of them are at stealth, so we can't mention their names, but they're growing rapidly. So there's real, the cybersecurity has always been a very interesting point about Israel, but how do you really scale a big business? So the cyber starts of the world of starting businesses that are becoming bigger. So I think just, the whole community is different. It's changed a lot. The second-time founders are coming in, investing in new founders and helping them and coaching them. There's business to be made between them, right? If you're, a cybersecurity company and you need connections, so, you have Wiz and you have Wick, there's so many companies you can do business with. So there's a lot more opportunities than ever before. And Israelis don't settle to sell their company for 200 million anymore. They want to be $10 billion company or $15 billion company, and why not? So they're just growing.
So you always knew it was seed. So when they came into the locker room, you're sitting there with all these legends. Curry has his own fund too. I don't know if the other guys have their own funds or just invest off their own balance. His honeypot, or I've talked to the guys in Milwaukee. Penny jar.
Exactly.
And so tell us a little about your firm and how you met David. I mean, David's amazing, and it's fun to network with you guys. So tell me how that all came together.
Yeah, so I moved back to Israel, and I'm a big believer in community and having, good people around you, and that you can strive to be better and to pick their brain and learn a lot, right? Like, I'm never the smartest guy in the room, but I always like to be around smarter people than me and people that can help me and grow my business and grow my mindset, etc. So when I was back in Israel, it's like, okay, so who are the leading investors? Who's investing in seed? This is where I like to play. This is where I can bring the most value. This is where, it's competitive, but I have a different edge. So David was one of them. His name came up. He invested in some very interesting companies and reached out to him, said, hey, I want to have breakfast together or coffee on LinkedIn, just like that. And we had coffee the next day, started investing together. And then we felt like this combination, that penny jar we talked about, KD 35 Ventures, that having a VC tech investor who's, quality and talented and let's call it a celebrity or an athlete, that model is there's little to no overlap whatsoever, and we can bring a talent. So it's becoming this two-headed monster that we can bring this value. We see different things. We communicate different things to the founders. Our value adds are different, and it's just great. It's a great story. And then we had a great product market fit within the market right off the bat, and we decided let's go for it. Let's do it.
And the name of the firm is how do you pronounce it?
Sheva. Yeah, Sheva, number 7. Which have a lot of significance for us. So number 7 is my firstborn, Sarah, was born 7/7/17. My second daughter, Esther, was born also in July, so 7. I played in 7 NBA teams. Number 7 just kept following me around. I live in the street number 7 on the 7th floor, unit 27. I won't tell you the name of the street, but I'll tell you everything else about it. But other than that,
Canute will be there. Have you been to Zero Canute?
Not yet, but I'm counting on you taking me soon.
No, not happening. So 7, Sheva, I need to be very read. So Sheva is 7.
Yep.
And are you going to focus just on Israel? I mean, I know these, but I'm asking you.
No, thank you. It's great. Yeah, Israel related. Yeah, there's a lot of Israelis now in the Bay and in the U.S. So we want to keep our options open, and we have great relationships in the U.S. But mainly our focus is really here. Our boots on the ground, running around the streets, meeting with people day in and day out. So it's really the focus of our firm, but we do have a lot of U.S. founders and operators and great investors. So we're kind of open to have deal flow from the U.S. as well, but mainly our focus is Israel.
And so going back to hoops for a little bit,
Yeah.
when you get to the Warriors, obviously you said there was just from Kerr on down, the mindset was just to keep winning.
Mm-hmm.
And did you find yourself just watching the game ever, or were you always like, I mean, how does when you're around that many great players, even though you're on a championship team, what's that like from the bench and from the floor playing with them?
Yeah, one thing that Steve has done really well, and I appreciate it even more now, that, when they recruited me, we talked on July 1st, which is when free agency started. It was 7 a.m., which was midnight in New York at the time. And 95% of the conversation with Steve was about my mental and how would I deal with adversity. And, some games you'll play 25 minutes. The next day you might not play at all. Like, how would you take it? Are you for the team, et cetera, et cetera. So he asked me a ton of questions. And, so I was really prepared, first and foremost, obviously knowing going to this team. So the minutes are limited and you need to make the most of every opportunity to build that trust. But at the same time, always stay ready. And Steve has his own kind of rotation. Sometimes you're not playing the first half and then you'll play 17 minutes in the second half. So
right.
You always got to stay sharp and hot and warmed and ready to go. So even when you watch the game, like I'm ready to go. I feel like I'm, being ready at 99% of the time is the most important thing, rather than just get ready when you go on the court.
And what is it about Curry? Did you see him get better, or was he always great?
He got a lot better. He was really great in college, but there's some questions. I think, remember Steph in his third year signed a 4-year, $40 million deal, which by any means is a big dollar deal, but at the same time, it's not the max deal. So he wasn't, there was question about his ankles. He used to tweak his ankles a lot, missed a lot of time early on. His body wasn't, ready for it, but he just kept getting better and better and better and better. I remember seeing it in Summer League in 2009, and he was just dancing on the court. I was like, who is this literally dancer shooting threes like that? He didn't make all the shots, but he just kept getting better, and he literally changed the game forever. The game before Steph and after Steph is it is a totally different game.
Just he's always moving. The Lakers were like that; they were always moving.
Yeah.
But when I watch the game, he's moving more than everybody else. Is that just
unbelievable?
That's just what he has to do?
There's no player. Thank God, I played against the best of the best, other than, there's a lot of great players in the past, but like Michael Jordan, I didn't play against them, but I played against prime Kobe, prime Shaq, prime LeBron, prime KD, prime Steph, prime James Harden, so a lot of good players. Kyrie and a lot of guys, and there was never a player like Steph. Once he passed half court, the ball is live, and he's a threat from 40 feet out. So it's like he changed the whole dynamic on the court. Everything is so much more spread out, and it's just, and he like you said, he keeps moving all the time. So he creates this dynamic on the court like no other. I can't really, Steph is a really, really special player. Really special player. I think he's the best point guard ever. I'll take him number one.
Did anybody talk smack in Hebrew to you on the floor?
Shaq once. I had a game against Shaq my rookie year. He said, Shalom Chaver. He's like, hey, friend.
Friend.
And I looked at him, and I was like, what?
He's the cutest motherfucker ever.
Yeah.
Is he a nice guy?
Oh, yeah, but he's super funny. And then he's like, I played with this guy in college. He's Israeli, and he's my best friend. And, and he gave me some crap. It was awesome.
And then you got to play against Kobe.
Yeah, Kobe was a killer.
And so who was the one that you just were nervous about having to play against?
It's a good question. I don't think nervous is the kind of the term I'd use, but like the most intimidating, Kobe was definitely up there. I think KD was a guy. Remember KD's a 7'1", maybe 7-footer that played my position.
I didn't know he's that tall.
Yeah, he's really, really tall. Like
skinny.
I think NBA lists him at like 6'10", which is total bullcrap. He's way more.
Why would they list him at 6'10"? There's always that where they list some guys taller and some. What's the reason?
It's like Michael Jordan 6'6". Michael Jordan is barely touching 6'4", and I've met him face to face. But KD is literally 7 feet tall, and I don't know. I don't know why that happened. But like, you see KD, he was so athletic before he tore his Achilles, and
So athletic.
and he can shoot the ball from anywhere, and he's very aggressive, and it's like there's literally nothing you can do against the guy. I really hated playing against him.
What was the most points you ever got in a game?
My best game, point-wise, was 36 against the Warriors.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was for the Kings.
Yeah, for 2015-16. Yeah. That was the game that, if looking back, like that's the game that you're like, okay, we're getting him next year. So it's 36. Yeah, that year I averaged about 12 points, and it was like my best. We missed the playoffs, which sucked, but other than that, it was like a really good team.
And do you like watching the NBA now, or what's your favorite sports?
Yeah, you know what? Ever since retiring, like I took some time off just to live my mental getaway a little bit, So I do watch stuff to the playoffs have started, which is fun. We have an Israeli now playing for the Wizards, so I watch him. I watch my Warriors. I watch my Kings sometimes. I like watching LeBron and some of the guys. And yeah, the Suns are great. They have a really good team.
I know, it's
76ers
fun.
now have James, and it's awesome. They have good owners and David Blitzer. So, yeah, like I watch basketball, not as much as I used to. I mean, I played in almost 1,000 games, It's like once you play so much and, there's not more that you can really learn watching games and video and all that sort of stuff. It's like I'm taking some time off.
And what is a company that you saw early that you're really excited about that? Give me like a play-by-play of how it came about.
So investing in a company, which is still in stealth, that essentially starting with fractional ownership to any assets. And, now with the whole kind of Web3 phenomenon, they're starting with NFTs, but they quite early have developed much more into an infrastructure play, which really got us excited from the very beginning. So essentially it's like a Discord and Venmo had a baby and some sort of a PayPal had like a stepfather there or something. So it's really like a checkout button, buy together, but also a whole full infrastructure play. Let's say me and you go on one of the big marketplaces that you can check out, that me and you literally on-chain can own and sell NFT. So NFT to us is a protocol, but yeah, hopefully in the future it can be real estate, it can be a car, it can be anything. So, I mean, I think this is where the real potential of it, rather than, an ugly JPEG.
And what got you down the crypto rabbit hole? It seems like you really like, and you're a bit of a geek.
Yeah,
because like you're using Twitter, and I think you found me, or did you know who I was?
No, I knew who you were, and I found you on Twitter. I mean, I'm really a workaholic, to be honest. I think the fact that, being an athlete and competing for so many years, it's like I always kind of strived, I don't want to sound arrogant, but like I always strive to be the best I can be. And suddenly now I have I'm not starting from zero, obviously, but like I still need to really, I really want to be the best and make a name for myself. So I really, the best I can be. I don't know how far can I get, hopefully be really good, but I really strive to be real. So I really work really hard and stay. So who's out there, who's investing early, I really built a list of 25 funds that I have close relationship with them now. And I want them to invest with me and build these relationships and bring these value to our founders, always really working. So, I saw you on Twitter, reached out, you said, email me, let's talk. We got on a Zoom. It's great. Met your team. You have an amazing team. You guys have been in amazing companies. So just had fun. It was awesome.
No, I know I'm surprisingly athletic. Would you consider me surprisingly handsome? We haven't gone one-on-one because you want to see someone talk trash. I talk trash on the way to getting trashed. Surprisingly handsome too, would you say?
If you're handsome.
That's a no.
Yeah,
that was a polite no.
Very good looking.
And so do you get treated differently in Israel than, what is it like being somewhat of a celebrity in Israel versus the United States?
Oh, it's home. I mean, in Israel, you're really one of whatever. There was 3 NBA players in the history of the country. I was the first. There was another player called Gal Meko. Well, we played in the league for 2 years, and now we have Danny Avdia, who plays for the Wizards. So it's really you're really one of 3, let's say. So it's really, and you're very tall. Right? Israelis are not known they're known for the smarts, but they're not known for their, height. So, you're walking around 6'9", the streets of Tel Aviv, basketball players with a little bit of beard, so it's fun. People are really nice. I love being out in the streets. I love interacting with people. And being around people and being around our funders. So it's always fun. I really enjoy this. This is really a privilege to be in this position. So I really kind of cherish that.
So it sounds like you are getting to craft your own future here, which is what the whole joy of investing is. You're a student of investing. You have an edge in that you know how to communicate, and you can talk to people like me and get us on the phone, and you know how to close people. And David's great. He's very wise for a young age. Both of you are, but he's super young and wise. And I don't know if that's the Israeli spirit and in the military, but like, what is it that worries you?
That's a good question. I do want to kind of, one of our founders said, as an investor, you can be a plus 10, you can be a 0, or you can be a minus 10. I think you know what I'm talking about. So I said, what do you mean by that? He was like, so there's investors that, stay put, they provide somewhat of a value, but, they don't mess around my company, which is good. There's investors that are minuses, that they really sit on the board and they mess around and they want to take the company to their direction because they've had success in this direction. And it really kind of drag you down. But there's also some plus tens, right? They bring value. They work hard for you. They help you build the next round to kind of fundraise their next round. They bring, design partners. They help you with recruiting, etc. So I really want to be that 10, right? I want to. So if I talk to my founders and I really put it out there from the very beginning, like, listen, guys, I want to be your best friend. I want to help you guys. I want to succeed. Like, so if you succeed, I'll succeed, right? But sometimes it's not necessarily up to me. So it's like you also need to know to let go a little bit in a sense. So basketball always felt like if I'll prepare myself, I'll be good in the game. But here it's like I gotta, bet on the right founders, help them. But in the end of the day, it's really their company. So I'm worried about, stuff that are not in our control, right? Even though like I can't really be worried about it because I can't control it. But like if there's a bull market and something happened and then we made a really good investment, but something happened and, it's part of the game. But I really try to control what I can't control. It's like, what I can control is really work with our guys and work with them early and bet on the best ones, bring good people around them, and things will take care of themselves.
And what about Israel in general? Like someone that grew up there, then left, then came back. What's different?
A lot of things. It's like, it's funny. You land in Ben Gurion Airport, International Airport, and you drive to Tel Aviv and you see all this construction. It's literally like everywhere, like new buildings and new this and new offices, which is really awesome. And I think one thing that Israel has got to do better, and is actually we see it a little bit now, that it's becoming a much more mature market, which always Israel has been known to the startup nation emphasis. And now Israel is more of a scale-up nation. There's bigger companies, etc. So Israelis need to stay a little bit more modest, I think, in a sense. Maybe valuation got a little bit crazy in the pre-seed, seed side, and they moved back down a little bit. They went down a little bit now to more of a normal kind of numbers, which makes sense. So I think that's good. And then obviously, kind of later on, kind of staying the course and keep getting better.
And so tell us how you stay so what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? What does a day-to-day job of a startup investor look like in Israel?
Yeah, so I think, like our week starts with, like you're really in the middle between your investors and your founders and new founders that you're reaching out and building a relationship with. So essentially, like the start of the week, we always reach out to our founders, like where things are at. We, bi-weekly during the day, getting out to the street, getting to the offices, what's needed. What do you need from us? Where you guys are at? Where your mind at? What's going on in the market? Kind of pick their brain of everything that's happening, what needs to be happening with the company, why things are not really working properly. We like to hear it from them. So always constant conversation with our founders. On the other hand, kind of, obviously it's very important for us to keep a very open line of communication with our investors and LPs. That they know that we see pretty much, hopefully, God willing, every deal in the country and we have an opportunity to invest them and then to bring value to our founders. So really staying the course. One thing that we want to do in Israel that's never really been done before is really have tech events in a much bigger scale than there ever been. So having out like you and Mark Cuban and, hopefully in the future, like a Steph Curry, as a tag name, right, to come to Israel, to invest more in Israel, for them to understand everything that's happening in Israel, which is great for Israel, but also kind of bring their experience from the U.S. to educate and to pass the torch forward. So I think that's very important. And I'm doing my podcast. I really enjoy being out there and recording my podcast on a weekly basis, which is awesome. It keeps us relevant and it's a great market. I had Yoni from eToro. I just saw him a couple of days ago for coffee. It was awesome. He said, listen, my mom and her friends, they came up to me and it's like, we love the podcast with Omri. I was like, oh, this is my audience, her mom and her friends. They were like, no, but listen, like, it's like the mainstream users. The mainstream people, they like it. And they never really get exposed to Yoni. And sometimes Yoni, listeners are not getting exposed to Naftali Bennett or whoever it is. So it's really awesome. So really take that, but also expand into more of tech, tech investing, all that sort of stuff around that podcast as well.
And so this is your first fund.
Yeah.
What can you tell other people who are thinking about doing this?
It's it's a good question.
You wouldn't have done it yourself, or would you have?
No. I wanted to do it with someone because, especially early on getting into the industry, the experience part of investing, I think, is very valuable. This is like when we had dinner. Most of the conversation was like, hey, Howard, what do you think we should do from a marketing perspective? Like, how do we position ourselves? How do we build our brand? Like, what do you do with your founders? Like, would you pass on this? What is an ownership threshold? Would you do this if the ownership threshold were there? Like, all these questions, everything comes to mind. I think it's very important to solidify very early. And I think if you're a first-time founder and you really need to build a story, investors and LPs, they've heard it all and they've been burnt and they've had success, right? So it's like, what's your story? Like, what's unique about you? Why would people let you into a round, right? Like, let's say you got to compete with someone, right? Like, what's different about you? What would you do for them that is different than what I'll do for them, right? So when we solidify that and build a community around our firm, things become much, much better for us as well, right? So we have a lot of founders and a lot of good investors, a lot of good people around that creates that community kind of feeling. And I think LPs we're really excited about that.
And were you a geek? I forgot,
No, I've always been around basketball, so it was hard, growing up, like from the day I remember myself, like I always had a basketball in my head. I turned professional when I was 17.
Wow.
I joined the Army when I was 18 to 21. I still played professionally throughout, so it's like, never really had that time, I've always been around basketball, always been out, always been tired, sleeping most of the day, taking naps, It
sounds like me, and I've never worked out. So that is really, really interesting. And who do you how do you stay in the mix? Is it Twitter? Like what, obviously you do your podcast, but how do you stay in the mix?
All of the above. Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I think there's different audiences. Like for instance, my mom, she don't have Twitter, but she's always very active on Facebook. Like she follows me there, So there's an audience that I want to get to that, even for my podcast, right? I'm recording, but I'm also doing video. So I'll do YouTube, right? I'm the biggest kind of YouTube Israeli podcast in Israel. I've been voted the #1 podcast in Israel because I get to different audiences like the Facebook, the YouTube, the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that sort of stuff. So really being on pretty much every platform to be out there.
And what about politics for you? I know you have strong opinions. Most Israelis do. Is there any future in politics, or how do you want to be involved in changing the future besides investing?
It's another really good question. I think politics, especially in Israel with our system, we have a really messed up system.
Okay, but who doesn't? But explain to people why it's messed up, because I know, but.
Because in Israel, you need to build a coalition in order to get elected to prime minister. We don't have presidents here, right? So let's say you vote to a certain party, they need to go out and negotiate with everyone. So let's say I voted for candidate X to be the prime minister. He needs to go out and negotiate with a lot of smaller parties or maybe as big as them, but to give them different positions within government. So you don't really vote. You vote for someone, but you don't really get him. You get,
let's say
a 55. Yeah, you get a coalition. You get like 51% of him, but then he needs to negotiate a lot of different things. So it's really, and then from that point on, Israel has really bad laws around kind of, separation of the Supreme Court and the elected officials, and it's really a process. So if you had to ask me, like I think there's a lot of ways now to, especially like with the social media kind of era, that you can communicate and talk about stuff that are interest of you. So you can, like Elon Musk now is doing a lot on Twitter, right? So it's like, free speech and values that you care about, you can talk about them and people appreciate that on the one end. But I would rather really hopefully God willing, make money and hopefully and then donate and to build, my community and things that I like, and can make a lot of impact there, and kind of social help around that rather than politics.
So you're coming of age, right now, this era in time, the first company you mentioned is interesting, like you're excited about in that it's stealth is crypto. What is it about crypto that gets you excited in Web3?
I think I'm somewhat of a libertarian. I think the fact that having a wallet and it's some sort of an identity throughout that wallet and not being dependent necessarily by government, kind of owning my bank accounts and freezing them if something happened. I mean, not necessarily me, but just as a
Well, they did that in Canada or threatened to do that. I mean, it's fucking.
Yeah.
You want to talk about an advertisement for Web3 is Trudeau of all people.
Exactly. I was kind of, I was talking about it on Twitter. Like when you look at the war, in Ukraine and Russia, it's like if you're Ukrainian and you need to leave everything behind and you have a little bit of money, maybe a little bit of real estate, etc. Then you're getting conquered or everything that's like really, hopefully it's going to end soon. But like what do you do? But if you do have your wallet and you have some sort of money that is outside, like some sort of crypto wallet, that you have money that you can take it anywhere with you, and you're not necessarily dependent on your bank account in Ukraine. It gives you much more of a freedom. But I think that fact, and if I look at the guys that are super excited about that, like the 20, the 15 to 25 kind of age, it's like the money moves very fast with them. Technology is very advanced. What's going to happen when these guys are going to be 35, like 10 years from today? I think the whole banking system is going to have to change.
Your kids. The wallet is the thing. Mm-hmm. Until proven otherwise, I'm all in because of the wallet. Yeah. There's a company in Israel, Zengo, that's like figuring out, like I should have invested in that a while back, but I was just with Uriel and the way he's thinking through the wallet. I mean, when he pitched it to me, it wasn't even a wallet 4 years ago. So the wallet is the first big thing. And Ukraine, if you didn't know, now you know. Someone leaves, they can't take their gold, mm-hmm. they can't take their home, but the wallet and digital and the cloud, thank God, exists.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's not helping many right now, but you almost have no excuse as a human, as a citizen, not to have a digital wallet at this point.
Completely. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Well, I'm excited for the next 10 years because that's how long I'm going to be working with you, no matter what, like it or not. So I'll be 66.
Wow.
And that's kind of gross to think about it. But yeah, you'll be dealing with a 66-year-old man at some point. Hey, Omri, what up with that company that we invested in 2024? So that's what I try and tell people. It's like, be careful what you wish for. And now you're stuck with me. So, but it's fun to have more friends in Tel Aviv. I plan to, at least before COVID, I was there once or twice a year now at least. But you're friends with all my friends. So mm-hmm. You're friends with Itai, you're friends with Yoni. Mm-hmm. So it's a small town. It's a small country.
I love that about you, by the way. Like the first day, literally we met, you sent like 3 or 4 emails. Hey, meet. It was awesome. Like Yoni and Itai, all these guys are mensch of the mensch. And you can really tell, by your people that you're a mensch too. So it was really great.
Mensch, you know what that means?
Yes, I do.
Surprisingly nice.
Surprisingly nice.
It's uber mensch. Well, you're a mensch. We've had some fun. I can't wait to get this out to my community. Listen, it's hard for athletes. They're fucking done so young. Mm-hmm. And between crypto and the internet, there's something for everybody. No one has to retire. And so it's fun to see this generation that you said, like, you're right, 2017, like an explosion happened. People had something besides going to be an analyst if you were an athlete. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so you're part of that first real wave. So can imagine what that's like in 2 generations. It's fun to be negative. You log online, everybody wants to talk about the end of the world, but like it's not happening. And if it does happen, you got no control of it. But like there's so much opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think people understand better now, like you said, like the social media thing, like there's value there, having, Steph Curry on your cap table, and there's different doors that he can open. It's very cool to have him on some sort of a company retreat that he can talk to people and they can pick his brain. It's just, there's a lot of good to go around that.
Yeah. God bless. All right, my man, get some sleep. And I'm looking forward to doing our first show together, but it's great to be your partner, and we will talk soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, guys.
You're the man, Knut.
Yeah,
Pretty
you're the
fun,
man.
Huh?
Omri's the man. He's a mensch.
What do you think a mensch means?
I think it means a really nice person.
But you've never called me a mensch. I've heard what you've called me. It doesn't start with M or end with H. I've heard asshole. When you lose your cool, man. Whoo.
You know what?
No, you're good. I mean, like, I use my cool every 2 minutes, but when you lose your cool, I get nervous. So you are listening to Panic with Friends. We now have had a taller person that canoed on the show. Listen, we're open to anybody.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we're not bipartisan.
Equal
I don't even know what that
opportunity.
means. But anyways, it is fun talking to people like that who are passionate about investing, but then his whole life was waking up with a basketball in his hand. And here we are with the internet and crypto, and anything is possible. He told you, 2009, nothing, there was no talk of this stuff in the locker room. 2017, everybody was, and like people say, it was a bubble. No, it was just people onboarded.
Right.
People are onboarded. People got the bug. Some people are like you and trust other people. Some people want to dig their hands in. And that's what we're here, talking to investors, speculators, traders, founders, athletes, trying to keep 1-2 steps ahead of everybody. You don't have to fucking invent it. You just have to follow along. You can search Panic with Friends or my name, Howard Linson. You could search Canute, but I don't even know. There's so many of you. It's a whole nation of Canutes.
I'm at Knut Jensen on Twitter.
Are you guys in NATO? Supposedly Sweden
Yes.
wants in.